I'm not sure why I'm recording this. Maybe it's for closure, or proof, in case someone finds whatever's left of me. I haven't slept in 3 nights. My clock blinks random numbers. My phone battery drains in minutes. The static's back, and I swear the trees are moving again. It started last Thursday. I was on a solo camping trip near the Idaho-Montana border, deep in Clearwater National Forest. I'd done it every fall for the last 6 years. It was my reset button. No cell towers, no Wi-Fi, just pine trees, frostbitten mornings, and the crackle of my old ham radio. It belonged to my dad. He swore it once picked up a conversation from orbit. Might have just been pilots or weird signal bounce. Still, I liked the mystery. At night, I'd turn it on, let the static run like white noise while I read or jotted things in my notebook. But Thursday night, something came through. First, it was silence. No faint truckers, no foreign chatter, just a pulse, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Is anyone receiving, it distorted, repeated. Then came the part that froze my blood. Eli, my name. I shut the dial off, waited, turned it back on, just static. I told myself it was coincidence, or a prank. But no one knew I was out here, and that voice, it sounded wrong. Like someone trying to imitate a human. Too slow, too perfect. Still, I tried to sleep. I shoved the axe under my sleeping bag and kept one eye on the flap. Friday morning, the clearing felt different. Stale. Heavy. I hiked a bit and found another site up the slope. More light, fewer trees pressing in. I unpacked everything again, started a new fire ring, and kept my back to the woods. I didn't turn on the radio. That night, the cold snapped me awake. My sleeping bag was coated in frost on the inside. My breath came out in clouds. I checked the thermometer clipped to my tent string. 12 degrees. In September? Something was off. I stepped out. The woods were glowing. Not bright. Just a pale green shimmer pulsing behind the trees, like something bioluminescent was deep inside the trunks themselves. No wind, no bugs, no sounds. Just a deep hum, like bass beneath the soil. Then the radio turned on. I hadn't touched it. Receiving, Eli, approach. It wasn't a transmission. It was in the tent, like it came from the air. Then I saw the tracks. Long, deep, not human, at least 6 feet between steps. Clawed toes, heavy. They circled the tent, then wandered off north. I waited until sunrise with my axe in hand. Saturday, I was tired, unsteady, but curiosity beat fear. I followed the tracks, marked every third tree with red paracord. The path led up a narrow ridge, across a dry stream bed, and back down. And then I saw one of my own paracord ties. Even though I hadn't turned once, I was back where I started. I tried again. Different path. Same result. At one point, I dropped my compass. It spun aimlessly, never locking. By mid-afternoon, I was certain. The forest was folding, looping, or maybe I was. I made it back to camp by dusk. Only it wasn't the new camp. It was my original site. Same fire pit, same gear. But the coals were cold, and my notebook was open. Pages filled with the phrase, "You left too late," over and over. Not my handwriting. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the fire, axe across my lap. The glow returned. This time brighter. I saw figures. Tall, thin, between trees, motionless, but watching. I blinked. Gone, the fire flickered, then turned blue. No heat, no embers, just ice. Then I heard the crunch of footsteps. Something stepped into camp, slow, rhythmic, measured. I looked up, and it looked like me. Same coat, same beanie, same tired face. But it wasn't right. Its eyes didn't blink. Its mouth was a narrow slit, unmoving. Its skin looked pulled tight, like it wasn't built to smile. I didn't speak, neither did it. Then it tilted its head. Farther than necks should go. I ran. I found the service road, but no truck, no tire marks. Only one set of prints. Mine. Leading back. I kept walking until the stars faded. And then I woke up in the dirt. No memory of laying down. No watch. No compass. My radio was dismantled. Every piece laid in a spiral. Not random. Deliberate. Precise. Then I noticed blood. Not a lot. Just drops. Dark. Fresh. They led downhill between two massive pines warped into an arch. I followed. At the base of the hill, the ground pulsed. A low vibration through my boots. The trees thinned, and there was my truck. Sort of. It was half sunken, nose first into the soil like it had crashed from above. The windshield was melted, interior filled with moss and needles. Rust bloomed across the dashboard. Keys were in the ignition. On the seat, my notebook. It was full. Not my handwriting. Transcripts. Every word I'd said aloud the past 3 days. Even whispers. The last page had a map, a top-down view of my camp. Underneath it, something drawn in black ink, circular, with tendrils. Almost fungal, almost alive. Then I heard breathing behind me, and the world went dark. I woke up, here. Same tent, same woods, but different. The paths don't lead out anymore. Every direction folds back. The trees whisper now, not words, just impressions, regret, hunger, waiting, and the radio. It loops. You left too late. You left too late. You left too late. I tried to destroy it, burned it, smashed it, buried it. It always reappears, fully intact, sitting in the same spot. Humming. I'm leaving this recording in the hopes that someone finds it. But if you do, don't follow the lights. Don't trace the tracks. Don't respond to the signal, because once it knows your name, you're part of it, and it never lets go.
Some say the forest up near Clearwater has a way of swallowing things whole. Campers vanish, equipment malfunctions, maps twist. There's no official record of what happened to Eli. No reports, no search party. Just a scorched patch of ground and a spiral of melted electronics found by a seasonal ranger named Daniel Price 2 weeks later. Daniel was the one who recovered the notebook. Said he found it beside a half-buried recorder. Old, handheld, still functional. He'd been drawn in by a strange signal bleeding through the ranger comms, and what he stumbled on didn't match any terrain feature on the map. The clearing felt wrong. The trees leaned inward. The ground was warm, despite the frost. The electronics were warped, like they'd been in a fire, but the forest around them was untouched. Daniel gave the notebook and the recorder to the Forest Service, but no one took him seriously. The recording was too fragmented, the writing too strange. He held on to them. Told me about it over coffee a year later, when we were both off duty and had some time. I'm a technician at the ranger station. Paranormal stuff's a joke around here, but I never laughed at Daniel. A month later, he quit, left everything. Mailed me a box with no return address. Inside was the recorder, the notebook, and a sticky note that just said, "It's your turn." The tape was damaged, but I salvaged what I could. The voice you just heard? That was Eli. Not AI. Not fiction. This is his final message. And the last page of his notebook? Still legible. "We are still receiving," it said. September 18th, 7:42 a.m. Clearwater Range Station. The interference is back. Low frequency. Sub-audible hum. Not local equipment. No origin trace. It's identical to the one Eli recorded. I isolated it using a parabolic dish and a handheld field scanner. Signal strength climbs dramatically near mile marker 212 on the Northern Ridge Trail. I checked the weather logs. The barometric pressure spiked in that zone every night for the last 3 days. There's no station infrastructure up there. No power. No towers. No access roads. I ran a broadband spectrum sweep. It wasn't just noise. There's modulation buried in the signal. Deliberate structure. Repeating syntax. It's not human, but it's trying to be. I'm going back out today. I've packed the drone, standard thermal and visual spectrum, both rigged for auto-tracking. Brought extra batteries, infrared overlays, and a secondary uplink in case I lose direct connection. It's not just about capturing footage. I want real-time feedback this time, something I can measure while it's happening. The signal wavers in low-altitude zones, but spikes sharply with elevation. I'm betting the ridge will give me the clearest picture. If something's transmitting, or worse, responding, I want the drone between me and it when it happens. And the notebook? I'm taking it. It feels wrong to leave it behind. I copied every note and phrase onto my slate, cross-referenced with timestamps. Certain words in Eli's entries seemed to mirror the interference pulses, like he was repeating something he didn't realize. September 18th, 9:13 p.m., personal log. Field notes. The clearing exists. It's real. The spiral is gone, but there's a scorched impression. Burned pine roots. Ash frozen in frost. No wildlife, no wind. It's deathly quiet. Not just silent, muffled, like the sound itself has been stripped away. Even the snow crunch under my boots feels shallow, wrong. The air smells faintly metallic, like ozone and burnt plastic. There are no tracks leading in, not mine, not anyone's, even though I know I just arrived. The signal is strongest here. I flew the drone overhead. The live video feed was scrambled, but not randomly. Frames were looping. I ran diagnostics twice. It wasn't a transmission error. The loop was of me, standing in the clearing, not moving, like a freeze frame, but from an angle above me that shouldn't be possible. I reviewed the data. It wasn't a glitch. It was recorded, stored intentionally, which means something was observing from above before the drone ever launched. I pulled the analyzer. Signal strength was peaking. The tone was shifting, cycling between interference bands like it was mimicking known frequencies, emergency tones, number station intervals, even the cadence of human breathing. I took soil samples, photos, GPS logs. Everything looked right, except nothing matched the topographical map. The coordinates were real, but the elevation, slope, even tree layout were off by several degrees, like the landscape had been rebuilt from memory. I opened the notebook. The pages weren't blank, but they were different. There were layers beneath the writing, like old watermarks or UV ink, visible only when the light hit them just right. They moved when I tilted the page, not physically, but perceptually, like the lines were shifting within the paper. Shapes that reminded me of circuit diagrams or constellations. One resembled the clearing itself from above. The original writing was still there, but under it, faint outlines. Notes I never wrote. Shapes, arrows, a spiral. And one phrase, pressed so lightly into the page, I almost missed it. You're repeating it. I made it back to the station. Not sure how. I remember walking, then not walking. I woke up at my desk. Boots still muddy. Every monitor in the signal room was on. Spectrum analyzers, seismic feed, even the weather overlay. All showing the same word in spectral glitch. Receiving. I checked the recordings. My audio files stop halfway through the ridge trail, except one. New file. Labeled Eli_2.wave. It's my voice. Only I'm asking questions I don't remember asking. And at the end, I whisper something. Your turn. then silence. But the recording doesn't end. 7 seconds later, a low tone pulses through. Soft, steady, like a heartbeat muffled by static. Then the file corrupts. Frame skips. Bits of my own voice stitched back into the waveform, distorted. I looped it a dozen times, slowed it down, ran it through isolation software. One pattern keeps emerging. A phrase, layered beneath my own voice, almost imperceptible. "We remember you." The interference hasn't stopped since, but I've started to understand it. The pulses, at least some of them, aren't random. When graphed out, they match the timing of the annotations in the notebook. Eli wasn't just hearing things, he was decoding. I don't think he realized it, but someone, or something, was teaching him how to listen. And now it's doing the same to me. Last night, I was able to predict the next frequency band 2 minutes before it activated. It repeated 3 times, then stopped, like it was waiting. I answered. A shortwave ping bounced from a portable repeater just outside the station. The hum returned instantly, louder, deeper, structured. It heard me, and for the first time since this started, I wasn't afraid. Tomorrow, I'm going back to the clearing, not just to investigate, but to follow it. I've already started packing gear, notebooks, batteries, backup drives. I'll leave a note at the ranger station this time, just coordinates and a single transmission. Not a message, not even a voice memo, just the signal. 3 short bursts, too long. Then a sustained tone that rises in pitch over 12 seconds before cutting to silence. The same pattern it sent me, pulsed back through the repeater. If someone knows what to look for, they'll know where I went. If I don't come back, someone has to know where I went. Daniel's been following my logs. He never really stopped watching the ridge, not after what he saw. When I told him what I found, what I decoded, he didn't hesitate. He wants back in. He said he should have gone further the first time, that he owes Eli something, that we both do. And as an experienced ranger, he knows these woods better than anyone. He's already packing. Whatever Eli started, I think it's still unfinished. And we're the ones meant to finish it. September 21st, 6:05 a.m. Personal log. Alex. Daniel showed up at dawn. Didn't knock. He was already standing on the porch when I opened the door. Jacket zipped to the chin. Compass dangling from his hand like a rosary.
"Forecast says clear skies,"
Daniel said. I nodded. We didn't need to say the rest. He brought his old field pack, the heavy canvas one he used to swear by. Inside, climbing rope, a flare gun, a filtered canteen, and his old Ranger Band radio. Slung over his shoulder was something new, a hunting rifle. Nothing fancy, bolt action, black finish, no scope. I gave him a look. That's not necessary. We're just recording data and leaving.
"Habit doesn't mean I plan on using it."
We're going back. Not just to document the clearing this time, to follow it. 9:48 a.m. We reached mile marker 212 just before 10. The same trail, same trees, but nothing feels the same. The ridge leans sharper now. The frost is clinging in pockets where it should have already thawed. Daniel's compass won't settle. The needle ticks in slow, uncertain pulses.
This trail was flatter, I remember that much. Used to patrol it twice a week back in '09. It never curved like this, not until that fire in 2011. And even then, the slope stayed steady. I'd know if it shifted.
I said nothing. The readings on my analyzer showed the signal had shifted bands again. Still non-terrestrial, still structured, still rising. 11:03 a.m. We found the clearing, or something pretending to be it. There's no spiral, no scorch mark, no evidence of what I saw 3 days ago. Just a field of tall grass slicked in morning dew. Too neat, too uniform. Daniel crouched and ran his fingers through the grass, noting the dirt was warm to the touch. I scanned the area, and the drone feed blinked. Just for a second. A looped frame, like before. A high-angle shot of me standing perfectly still. But I wasn't. The drone hadn't taken off yet. 11:22 a.m. We began circling the perimeter. Daniel moved slow, deliberate, like he was tracking. I watched the analyzer. The signal wasn't just coming from above anymore. It was stronger at ground level. Then it dipped again. A hollow frequency, echoing like sonar through bedrock. Daniel called me over. He'd found a shallow depression beneath a patch of frost-killed moss. When we pulled it back, there was a gap, a narrow vertical slit in the earth about a meter wide. Root-wrapped, but breathing cold air. We exchanged a glance. He didn't speak, just unslung the rope. We anchored it to a nearby pine and dropped it down. The light didn't reach the bottom. I clipped the analyzer to my belt, locked the repeater to a backup signal burst, and followed him in. 11:37 a.m. The descent took longer than it should have. Maybe 20 feet? Maybe more. Hard to tell with the light playing tricks on the walls. The space below wasn't a cave. Not exactly. It was too smooth. The rock curved in impossible angles, as if melted into shape. Faint traces of soot lined the walls, and the roots, they didn't hang. They ran along the walls, woven tight, like cabling. Bioluminescent patches lit the space in pulses. Blue, then green, then off. Daniel whispered something behind me. Not words, just a sound. An exhale that wasn't his. We found the first object embedded in the wall near the far end. A rusted Ranger radio. Model from the late 90s, still intact, still warm. Under it, a cracked nameplate, half melted. I brushed off the ash. E. Lowell. Daniel stepped back. I heard him mutter something under his breath. This wasn't just where Eli vanished. It was where he was put. 11:50 a.m. The walls narrowed the deeper we went. What began as an open chamber now pressed in from both sides. The air thinned. My breath fogged with each step, though the analyzer showed the temperature rising. Daniel pointed out something glinting in the stone. I leaned closer. Circuitry, embedded directly into the rock, fused like fossilized wire. It looked like part of an old emergency beacon, but smaller, more complex. The signal strength surged. Not in spikes now, but steady. A single tone layered beneath everything else. My ears rang, but I felt it more than heard it. That's when the lights changed. The bioluminescence switched to red. A deep, pulsing hue like slow-beating veins. No rhythm, no logic, just presence. Daniel raised the rifle, not aiming, just holding it tighter. I could tell he felt it too. Another object, this one lodged in the far wall, halfway buried. A recorder, same model as the one Eli left behind. I didn't touch it, just knelt, slowly, and scanned the surrounding wall. This time, the roots weren't interwoven. They were growing from it, as if the equipment itself had become part of the system. Behind us, something clicked. Not metal. Bone. We turned. Nothing there. but the pulse changed again, and the repeater on my belt lit up with a signal it wasn't tuned to receive. 12:02 p.m. I scanned it twice. The repeater wasn't malfunctioning. It was processing something new. Not just signal data. It was parsing structure, cadence, pitch, fragments of phrasing I'd tagged back in the lab during those late nights translating Eli's logs against the pulse pattern. I recognized some of it. The scanner was identifying a response, a loop stitched together from what we'd been sending. Not mimicry, recognition. Daniel shifted behind me, scanning the tunnel wall with the flashlight clipped to his collar. He stopped. There was writing, not etched, not burned, printed, thermal label text, like from an old punch tape machine, glued to the root-covered surface. RX Channel 07. Code redundant. We followed the line of roots from the label, deeper into the narrow corridor. The walls were beginning to change again, no longer stone, now some kind of smooth composite. Bone-white, but pliable under pressure. Synthetic. Organic. The signal was constant now. No breaks, no pulses. Just presence. And then the hallway turned. Not bent. Turned. Like the material had decided to change direction. We rounded the bend and found what we thought was another recorder. But this wasn't a device. It was a pod, semi-transparent, partially buried in the wall. Inside, something humanoid. Its skin was a pale, glassy gray, not smooth, but layered in translucent ridges like overlapping membranes. The arms were too long for its frame, almost reaching its knees while seated. Fingers tapered into fine points, 4 per hand, jointed in ways that made it difficult to tell whether it could bend forward or backward. Its head was tilted downward, chin nearly touching chest, like it had been in a long sleep. No visible eyes, just a faint cluster of darker texture where the face might have been. Breathing tubes? Sensory patches? I couldn't tell. There was no motion, no sound. And yet the repeater said otherwise. It wasn't moving. But the repeater said otherwise. Active connection detected. A low-frequency rumble passed through the walls. Not sound, not quite. Pressure. Like the space itself had exhaled. The roots along the floor stiffened, retracted, then pulsed once in red. The pod's surface rippled. Not a crack, not a hatch. A shimmer, like heat distortion across the glass. Then a voice, my voice, echoed from the repeater. We're still receiving. But I didn't press anything. Daniel took a step back, his boot crunching over what looked like crumbled radio components. They weren't broken. They were melted, reshaped into symbols, spirals, arrows, recursive glyphs pointing back toward the pod. The repeater flared again. Signal accepted. Transmission loop confirmed. Then silence and movement. Inside the pod, the figure's head lifted, slowly, deliberately. It didn't open its eyes. It didn't have eyes, but I felt it look at me. Not through me, into me. Something pulsed in my skull, like pressure behind my eyes. And in that moment I knew we hadn't just answered the signal. We'd completed the circuit. 12:09 p.m. The lights went out, and a new signal began. We couldn't see. Not in the traditional sense, but the walls began to glow from within, dull amber pulses beating in rhythm with the signal. It wasn't noise, it was language. I felt it more than heard it. The pod behind us hummed. I turned. The figure was gone. Not broken, not opened. Gone. And then we heard the second pod activate. Not from this chamber, from above. Daniel raised his light, sweeping across the walls. More recesses, more embedded glass, 3, then 6. Each one emptying, not explosively, but smoothly, deliberately. As if whatever we'd completed had always intended to multiply. The analyzer was failing. Too much interference. But one word blinked on the repeater before the battery gave out. Multiplying. Daniel whispered something under his breath. I couldn't tell if it was a prayer. I stood there, heart racing, frozen in that glow. And I realized we never cracked their code. They cracked ours. 12:41 p.m. Final log. We're back at the surface now. Barely. We didn't climb out. We ran. The hum followed us. Not just behind, through the walls, the air, the roots. At one point, halfway up the rope, Daniel froze. I thought he'd seen something. Maybe he had. But when I turned to look, I saw only dark shapes below. Too many limbs, not enough space. They didn't move fast, but they moved together, with purpose. One of them paused beneath the shaft, lifted its face, if you could call it that. No eyes, but it knew. It knew I was watching. Then it backed away, disappearing into the glow. We didn't speak until we were back above ground. Not out of panic, out of something colder. The clearing is still there, but the air feels different. Like pressure before a storm. Like anticipation. The repeater is dead now, but I can hear the signal in everything. The trees, the ground, the silence. Each signal we sent, each response, wasn't just communication. It was permission. I don't know what's truly down there, or what they want. But I don't think they're interested in being humanity's friend. I'm leaving this log behind, in case someone else answers.